to the story stopping the news. Minister of Education says he will do what is in the best interest of teachers and students at the Bastille High School. World oil prices fall but remain the same in Antigua-Barbuda and France among top 20 in gender equality. Good afternoon. Welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Tuesday, October 28th. I'm Ebony Brandon. Now for a look at the news developments in detail. Minister of Education, Senator Nigel Carty, says while he has real concern for the health and well-being of the students and teachers at the Bastille High School, it is his responsibility to do what is in the best interest of all involved, leaning on the guidance provided by public health officials and medical experts. The comment came during an interview with Stevenson Manners, in which the minister also addressed calls from certain quarters for the school to be demolished.
As Minister of Information, my responsibility is to listen not just to what the management of the school wants or says, but to ensure that there's independent advice and expertise brought to bear on this current situation. I have not had anybody from Kafa to Kariri to any engineer express such a concern that the school needs to be broken down. I know that this is a notion that has been peddled from day one by one or two persons, and I can name them but I won't. But we continue to work with the advice of our public health agencies, locally and regionally.
The minister said it was important not only to seek the advice of experts when faced with challenging matters, but to follow that advice as well and avoid the temptation to act on emotion. Minister Carty also expressed concern that efforts continue in some quarters to discredit reputable public health experts who have submitted reports on their investigations into the Bastille High School.
And one of the difficulties we've had, to be honest, Mr. Manners, is that whenever we've had advice from public health agencies locally and regionally and other experts like Kariri, there are always some persons who make an effort to undermine these institutions, seem not to be able to express and use reasoned judgment, and sometimes I wonder why that is the case. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it.
Attorney at Law, the Honorable Roberto Hector, has dismissed claims that he is representing Tempo Networks in the legal matter between Tempo and the Nevis Island administration. On October 19th, Nevis's Tourism Minister, the Honorable Mark Brantley, posted on Facebook that Tempo Networks is claiming $750,000 from the NIA. He wrote, "This CCM-led Nevis Island administration continues to be besieged with a steady stream of effluent caused by the atrocious decisions made by the previous NRP-led NIA. Yesterday, I was served with a lawsuit by Tempo Networks. Tempo filed suit in New Jersey claiming from the poor taxpayers of Nevis some $750,000. Brantley continued, listing Hector as Tempo's local representative. He wrote the local agent for Tempo's US-based lawyers is none other than former NRP Minister, the Honorable Roberto Hector, trading as Wali Attorneys, a firm formerly owned by he and Honorable Patrice Nisbet. Hector, however, told attendees to a recent town hall meeting that he was not representing Tempo Networks in the matter.
As soon as he said that I was representing Tempo, I had people texting me and asking me if I am representing Tempo. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not representing Tempo. Frederick Morton of Tempo has simply asked me to see to it that the government was served with the papers for the court case. So I called John Atherton and I asked him, as I was instructed to, serve it on Mark Brantley and on Colin Terry.
Brantley and Hector will oppose each other in the upcoming federal elections for Nevis 9. Host of ZIZ's The Roundtable, Clement O'Gara, has lauded the three panelists who formed part of last week's broadcast on masking breast cancer. O'Gara said the decision to focus on breast cancer came as St. Kitts and Nevis joins the rest of the world in celebrating Cancer Awareness Month in October.
Unmasking breast cancer, of course, is not an easy task, but as you can tell by the discourse, we have a group of dedicated foot soldiers in St. Kitts and Nevis who are willing to inform and educate the public on healthy choices, including regular and early screening. Breast cancer is not a death sentence.
The roundtable continued last evening with a discussion on disability and the community. In regional developments, although at least one Caribbean country has allowed consumers to reap the benefits of lower oil prices on the world market, the nation's sole petroleum distributor said only government can determine whether there will be a drop in prices at the pump in Antigua and Barbuda. Last week, Jamaica's Petrojam announced a decrease in the price of gasoline, kerosene and propane cooking gas. Acting Chief Executive Officer of the West Indies Oil Company, WEOC, Gregory Georges, said the next shipment of oil the company receives will be cheaper, although that does not mean motorists will reap savings at the pump, since the price of gasoline and diesel at gas stations in Antigua Barbuda is fixed by the government. When the global price of oil increases, Georges said, government simply conducts less consumption tax, and when prices fall, as is the case now, government collects more. When oil is imported, WEOC's margin, the dealer's margin, shipping and other fixed costs are added before the price of the pump is determined. The WEOC acting CEO said the petroleum on the local market today was most likely purchased when prices were over $100 a barrel. Today, the price per barrel is less than $80, and Georges said the next shipment of fuel expected in early November should be at the lower cost base. Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources in the Bahamas, Honorable Alfred Gray, wants government to enact stricter penalties for poachers who continue to rape the waters of its natural resources. Gina Noel Ferguson has the details.
We're going to tighten up the laws to ensure that the Bahamian people benefit from what's in the Bahamas.
A strong stance taken by Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources V. Alfred Gray, who believes that poaching in our waters have gone on long enough. And despite agreements with the government of the Dominican Republic, Minister Gray says he's still not satisfied that the Dominicans are doing what they can to end this assault on our waters. The Bahamas, he maintains, cannot stand by and allow this to continue, and he hopes new fines can be implemented soon.
Presently is $50,000 for the captains as a fine. We have gotten approval to increase it fivefold to $250,000 fine for the captain, and it used to be $5,000 per crew. We have gotten approval to increase it to $25,000 per crew member on the vessels which we might arrest.
And the new policy won't stop there. Minister Gray says government anticipates ending the common practice of hiring Bahamian foreign work crews only to have them participating in fishing as well.
As soon as these vessels leave the port, the captains and the engineers go overboard and dive as if they were fishermen. That's not going to be allowed to happen. Quite frankly, I'm seeking Cabinet's approval. Formally, we've discussed it, and I am asking the government to formally approve for announcement that there will be no nationals other than Bahamians working on Bahamian vessels.
As Barbados' Minister of Finance, Chris Snickler, prepares to present his much-anticipated financial statement and budgetary proposals to Parliament in a couple of weeks, he is assuring Barbadians that no major increases in taxes or layoffs are presently in store. We hear more in this report.
Not our contemplation for any major increases in taxes, in positions. In fact, we may very well be looking over the short to medium term if we can broaden the basis to reduce some of the incidence of tax on Barbadians. That's really where our goal is, but of course, as you know, we have a fiscal program in place. We want to achieve certain targets, and therefore we have to stick to what we have for.
Internationally, France has made big strides in gender equality, according to a World Economic Forum report, which puts it in the top 20 countries for gender equality, rising from its previous ranking of 45th. Denmark tops the list, while Yemen is at the bottom. The report shows that gender equality has been beneficial in social, political, and also financial spheres. Al Jazeera's Jonah Hull reports from Paris.
In France, there's never been a better time for a woman to enter government. In historically one of the most sexist realms of French life, women now take an almost equal number of places at the cabinet table as men. There's a Ministry for Women's Rights, with brand new gender equality laws considered among the most comprehensive anywhere. But is it enough?
Le message principal qu'on adresse au gouvernement, c'est d'investir.
Our main message to the government is for them to invest in the rights of women. We have a very good law which has been promulgated and which is progressive. What we really need is courage and to go further. In other words, to really attack the inequalities between men and women.
In August, France passed a bill that, in the words of the Women's Minister, attacks all gender equalities at once. It really is sweeping legislation, tackling the wage gap, domestic violence, gender inequality in commerce and politics, and it goes further, making it easier for a woman to get an abortion, encouraging men to take paternity leave. It bans sexism in the media and even beauty pageants for girls under 13. That's contributed to improving France's standing in the World Economic Forum rankings for gender equality, but there's a long way to go. Women in France earn on average 25% less than their male counterparts. They hold around a quarter of seats in the legislature, and only 3% of French chief executives are women. There may be near parity in government, but in the workplace many women, like entrepreneur Stephanie Dambron, still feel outnumbered.
I think there is still a long way to go. For example, if I try to enumerate my women entrepreneur friends, it's very difficult to make a long list. Whereas if I enumerate my men entrepreneur friends, that would go a long way.
The response in the U.S. to the Ebola outbreak has been described by some as hysteria. Some media figures have called for more perspective in how it is being reported. Al Jazeera's Tom Ackerman reports from Washington, D.C.
As of last week, the number of this year's confirmed Ebola cases worldwide stood at 10,141, killing 4,922 people. Compare those numbers with 4 confirmed cases in the U.S., ending in just 1 death. Nonetheless, Ebola fever, though not the physical sort, has been rising in America.
This is something that everybody in the country is thinking about.
24-hour media coverage of every case, suspected or actual, has elevated the anxiety, to the point that even some media figures are calling for more perspective in the reporting.
Do not listen to the hysterical voices on the radio and the television or read the fear-provoking words online. The people who say and write hysterical things are being very irresponsible.
Outside the New York hospital, where one patient has been quarantined, HIV/AIDS activists protested what they called the excessive concern with Ebola.
This is actually an extreme exaggeration. This is hysterical response, the quarantining of people who are not symptomatic of Ebola.
A Gallup poll found that 1 in every 4 Americans were worried about getting the disease, a percentage that's held stable over the past month. But confidence in the government's ability to handle Ebola has fallen to just 50%.
I would encourage panicked individuals to consult the scientific facts and understand that the risk that is facing the average American, as Dr. Fauci said yesterday, is vanishingly low.
Meanwhile, Ebola has stolen attention from a much more contagious and deadly illness in America.
Americans are far more likely to get the flu this year than they are to get Ebola, and actually are far more likely to die from the flu this year than to die of Ebola.
In fact, an average of 23,000 people in America die from the flu every year. Tom Ackerman, Al Jazeera, Washington.
In today's weather, we'll have occasional showers along with cloudy skies. Winds will blow from the east to 10 to 20 miles per hour. Temperatures are expected to reach a high of 29.4 degrees Celsius. This evening, skies will also be cloudy, along with occasional showers. Sunset is expected at approximately 5:39 p.m. That brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening at 6:30 p.m. on 96.1 FM ZIZ Radio and right here on Channel 5 at 7 p.m. for the evening newscast. These stories and more in detail. I'm Ebony Brandon.